On March 26, 2018, Jennifer and Sarah Hart murdered themselves and their 6 adopted children by driving their SUV off of a cliff in Mendocino County, California. When I first heard anything about this family was in 2014 at a protest in Oregon where 12-year-old Devontae Hart, in a random picture, hugged a police officer. It was posted all over the internet as this sign of the racial harmony we really needed in America. But in reality, this was a carefully calculated, planned thing that his moms put on social media to allow them to get more traffic and make more money off of their 6 black kids. They started adopting children in Alexandria, Minnesota in 2006. Those were their children, Marcus, Hannah, and Abigail. In 2009, Devontae and his siblings, Jeremiah and Sierra, were also added to the household. All 6 children were adopted from Harris County, Texas. Jen began blogging about having 6 black kids and a gay wife, and you guessed it, it made a lot of money. America and the world were charmed by the white savior complex that Jen and Sarah were putting out. Jen frequently wrote, "If not us, then who?" And they brought up the fact that Devontae's mom was a crack addict multiple times. The horrific irony, though, is that the people who these children really need to be afraid of were their mothers. The abuses started almost immediately for 6-year-old Hannah in 2008 when they lived in Minnesota, and teachers noticed that there were bruises on her arm. Jennifer told the police that that was from Hannah being hit by a belt. Within just a couple of months, Hannah and Sarah pulled all of the children out of school. Then in 2010, Abigail said that she had owies on her stomach and back after she had been beat and forced to put her face in cold water over a penny that had been stolen. Sarah took responsibility for the abuse in 2010, and she got a metaphorical slap on the wrist with 6 months community service. In 2011, Hannah told her teachers that she wasn't being fed. Jen and Sarah then moved the family to Oregon. In 2013, Oregon officials were informed of all the abuse accusations from Minnesota, and so they did their own investigation. Oregon interviewed everybody in the family as well as friends who told them that the kids had weird rules, like being forced to raise their hand before they could speak, even at home, that they couldn't laugh at the dinner table, and that they weren't allowed to even wish each other happy birthday. There were other reports saying that the children were locked in cages and that they weren't fed properly. Of course, though, when you interview children around the parents that are abusing them, you get no evidence. And so the case was closed. And Jennifer even went online to say that people were being really intolerant of the fact that there were lesbian moms who had 6 black kids. That would be when they moved to Washington in 2017. Then in August of that same year, Hannah jumped from her 2nd-story window at 1:30 a.m., banging on her neighbor's door saying, "Don't make us go back. They abuse us." Jen responded to the accusation that she was abusing her children by telling her neighbors that sometimes Hannah lied because she was a drug baby, and that Hannah's biological mother was bipolar, so maybe she was too. Not long after this, the same neighbors, the DeKalb family, actually discovered Devontae out on the street begging for food. Devontae begged them, "Please don't tell my moms that I'm out here doing this." And he told his neighbors that Jen and Sarah withheld food as punishment for the children. With all of that information, the DeKalb family reported Sarah and Jennifer to the police. They were also reported to the State Department of Social and Health Services in Washington. Caseworkers from DSHS tried to contact the moms on March 23, 2018. Unlike their normal trips that were full of social media posts and lots of lengthy blog posts about family love, there was none of this time. Jen and Sarah Hart knew that they were in trouble. And then on March 26, 2018, a German tourist discovered this scene at the base of a cliff in Mendocino County. It was a very steep cliff with a roughly 100-foot drop to the water. Authorities were notified and rescue workers rappelled down to find Jen and Sarah in the driver's seat and passenger seat, along with Marcus, Jeremiah, and Abigail outside of the vehicle but nearby, also deceased. Devontae, Hannah, and Sierra were all missing from the scene. Sierra's body was found a few weeks later, but Devontae and Hannah remained missing. At first, it was seen as a terrible accident, but shortly after investigating the scene, the police painted a much darker picture. The last time that anyone was seen alive from the Hart family was on March 25th on Sunday at a Safeway in Fort Bragg. Jen was at the wheel of the Yukon. She pulled off of Highway 1 and stopped about 70 feet from the cliff. She then accelerated the truck 90 miles per hour off the edge. She never touched the brakes. There were no skid marks at the scene, and no one was wearing a seatbelt. Even worse, Jen was well above the legal limit for intoxication when they did the autopsy on her body. They also found antihistamines in some of the children's bodies, leading some to believe that they were at least somewhat drowsy before the crash happened. Sierra and Devontae's bodies have never been found as of 2021. There were no notes left, and we are left with more questions than there are answers. There is a 3-part podcast called Broken Hearts that goes into a lot more depth about the family and this situation. For anyone wondering, Jen told one of her coworkers that she regretted having a large family and she wished she had known how hard it was going to be before she adopted all these children. I know it's frowned upon to give children back to the foster care system, but honestly, wouldn't it have been better than these 6 kids living a short, painful life with those monsters?